Why did Obi-Wan Kenobi fail? Or more specifically, why did he fail to stop Anakin from falling to the dark side? Because, let's be honest here, he gets promoted in Phantom Menace, then he helps out a little bit in Attack of the Clones, and then at the end of it all, in Revenge of the Sith, he gives him a pat on the back and a hello there, and then he's off spending the next 20 years growing in the knowledge of the Force, being humble and protecting people like Princess Leia from Death Stars, and also taking a very long Tatooine vacation. And that's great and all, but what about actually dealing with the Emperor? He never actually told Anakin or seemed to specifically spell out how to deal with the Emperor.
Break it down.
And he seems absent during the most important parts when Anakin seems to need him in Revenge of the Sith. Is Obi-Wan just an Obi-fail? He did fail to stop Anakin's fall to the dark side, didn't he? Is that really what happened? Is that what's going on? Generation Tech seems to think so. But part of the explanation on Obi-Wan Kenobi's lack of involvement starts by understanding that, contrary to what Generation Tech may say, Obi-Wan isn't the only one who failed. He's not the only one who was unable to prevent Anakin's fall. Yoda was a Grand Master Jedi, a teacher of teachers, a master of masters, and all he did was give Anakin one therapy session and then he left him to it. And while Mace Windu correctly pointed out some real flaws in Anakin, he didn't really actually do anything to fix those flaws or do anything to help Anakin grow or really do anything to resolve the issue. And Anakin's wife Padme and Anakin's in-laws also really didn't play much of an active role in preventing him from falling to the dark side. So Obi-Wan wasn't the only one who failed. He's not the only one who couldn't prevent this fall. Yoda failed to stop Anakin's fall to the dark side. Mace Windu failed. Padme failed. However, out of everyone that I've mentioned, Obi-Wan Kenobi is the only one to actually show humility. All of the people I mentioned failed. Yoda, Mace Windu, and also Anakin's in-laws, his family, and Padme. But Obi-Wan is the only person to actually say he's sorry and to show humility. Obi-Wan actually apologizing is really important because not a lot of Star Wars characters do that. And remember that Obi-Wan didn't even actually want to train Anakin in the beginning. He did it because it was an order from his dying master. The same dying master who alerted the bad guys who the Jedi Chosen One was, which wasn't a very good idea, announcing to the whole galaxy who the Chosen One was. And it wasn't particularly helpful that he told the bad guys too. But it is what it is, I guess. And the reason Anakin was not really desired to be accepted into the Jedi Order was because he was a child ruled by negative emotions, and Anakin lacked humility or discipline. And what also didn't help Obi-Wan's job of teaching Anakin was there was a massive war right in the middle of Obi-Wan's teaching sessions. So there were some things that were completely outside of his control during the teaching of Anakin. But more importantly than the teaching, Obi-Wan's character was never a leader character or someone to act like a tank like Anakin. Obi-Wan was always more of a general guide or a protector, you could say. Now, don't get me wrong, Obi-Wan was always more than happy to help wherever he's needed, but Obi-Wan's role was to do the right thing, maintain the moral high ground, understand the Force better, and understand that the dark side is ultimately a corruption of the Force. It was to protect others, and, for example, saving a princess from a Death Star, even when you have absolutely nothing to gain from it. I mean, Obi-Wan was way too old, and he was leaving his home behind, and he doesn't get paid or any profit for rescuing prisoners. But he does it anyway, because doing good is its own reward. Again, Obi-Wan was a guide to those who wanted to listen, and a protector to those who needed his help. And another thing to note is that it wasn't Obi-Wan's job to deal with the Emperor and crush the dark side. That was Anakin's. And Obi-Wan was very clear on a whole lot of things. He clearly says that Anakin shouldn't get involved with politics, he shouldn't trust the Emperor Palpatine, he really tells him to not let his personal feelings cloud his judgment, and he reminds him that he is also the youngest person in history to be appointed to the Jedi Council, and the 12-ish years that Anakin spends training with Obi-Wan, Obi-Wan does his best to teach him what he can. But, at the end of the day, it was still Anakin's job, not Obi-Wan Kenobi's job, to ultimately destroy the Sith. Obi-Wan gave Anakin the tools that he needed, but it was Anakin's job. And remember when Anakin got promoted to the rank of Jedi? That's everyone sending Obi-Wan Kenobi a message saying, "We don't need you to look after Anakin anymore. Anakin can take care of himself." That's the message that you send when you say Anakin should be promoted. You're saying, again, we don't need you, he can take care of himself. And also, Anakin really didn't want to listen to Obi-Wan anyway.
You're gonna pay for all the Jedi that you killed today, Dooku.
We'll take him together. You're going slowly on the left.
I'm taking him now!
No, Anakin, no! No!
Brave of you, boy. But I would have thought you had learned your lesson.
I am a slow learner.
You underestimate my power! Don't try it!
And for proof, he literally does the exact opposite of what Obi-Wan suggested. Like, by the time we reach Revenge of the Sith, he had already become very close friends with the very Emperor that Obi-Wan warned him about. So, what was Obi-Wan Kenobi supposed to think? The Council and everyone else seemed sure that Anakin was ready, and Anakin didn't want to listen to him, and frankly, Anakin was technically not his apprentice anymore. Obi-Wan definitely tried his best to aid his friend, teach him what he can, and remind Anakin that he isn't alone, he has an older brother looking out for him. But, now that Anakin was a fully trained Jedi, it was Anakin's job to take responsibility and not allow himself to slip into the dark side. And as a chosen one, it was his job to decide what to do with Palpatine. That was not Obi-Wan's job. Obi-Wan was responsible for making sure Obi-Wan doesn't fall for the dark side. And again, when they promoted Anakin, this sends the message, we don't need your help, Obi-Wan. Anakin knows what he's doing. And frankly, the ultimate tragedy of Anakin Skywalker was that his fall wasn't necessary. And if you watched The Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi, you would have learned that the reason Anakin fell to the dark side was that he was corrupted over time. And he was always looking to the future, Yoda says. Always looking over the horizon, but he was never active in the present. He never concentrated on what he was doing. And he ultimately underestimated the Emperor. And he prioritized his own interests instead of anyone else's. Now, don't get me wrong. It's great that Anakin was redeemed. That Anakin Skywalker found redemption. That's actually my favorite part of the whole story. But, contrary to what Generation Tech might tell you, this failure wasn't Obi-Wan's failure. It was Anakin Skywalker's failure. And Luke is the one who succeeded where his father failed. So, why did Obi-Wan Kenobi fail to stop Anakin from falling to the dark side? Well, because at the end of the day, it was Anakin's choice whether he wanted to listen to Obi-Wan or whether he did not want to listen to Obi-Wan. And frankly, it was Anakin's job to look after himself, prevent his own fall, and deal with the Emperor. Obi-Wan did his best to help him out, but at the end of the day, it was Anakin's job to deal with the Emperor. Thank you. This is Professor Sassafras, signing out.